Welcome you all this morning, taking your couple hours on a Saturday morning to learn how to be a more effective advocate. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to give a rundown about how we're going to spend the next 2 hours, and we're actually kind of hoping we won't take the entire 2 hours, so should get you out of here a little early and get on with your Saturday. I have one request. There's someone here that has their phone number, 808-387-7001. If you could, oh, it's gone now. All right, never mind then. I was just wanting them to unmute themselves and tell us who they were because it didn't have a name attached to the phone number. All right, so here's how we're going to spend our time. We're going to do a quick round of introductions, and what we'd like folks to do is just your name and where you are, town, city, whatever, / island. This is a statewide thing, so we often get folks from many different, all of the different islands. So please let us know. And that is it. We don't, I don't know more than that because we don't have a lot of time, but just a quick idea so we can understand where everybody's from. And then we're gonna hear from some folks who use storytelling to be effective advocates, and a little bit of how and why, and hear their story. And then we're gonna go through kind of the components of telling a good story, give you all time to practice writing that out, and then we're going to fishbowl with a couple of people, their stories, and kind of massage them and play with them a little bit. We will then check in at the end of that exercise whether or not we want to take a quick little 5-minute break, and then we're going to spend the rest of it kind of showing you how to use the state legislative website. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. And feel free at any time to put questions in the chat box, raise your hand, ask questions. That's kind of what we're here for. So I will kick it off. Welcome this morning. My name is Laura Nevitt. I am the Community Engagement and Training Director at Hawaii Children's Action Network. I live in Waikiki on Oahu. And I'm going to pass it off to Christy just because she's the other co-facilitator today. And then Christy, if you will actually, I'm going to task you with, if you will just call on people since you're also going to introduce the Clubhouse folks, and just kind of go through the screen, that would be great.
Okay.
Lynn should introduce herself as well. Anyway, go ahead, Christy.
Okay. Hi, aloha. Good morning, everyone. I'm Christy McPherson. I'm the Director of Focus and lead community developer for Hawaii Appleseed. And I live in Alewa Heights. And I will pass it on to Jalen. Oh, what island? Oahu. Yes. Okay, near Kamehameha schools on the right. And now I'll pass it to Jalen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jalen Murakami. I work at Hawaii Public Health Institute, and I'm calling in from Kaka'ako on Oahu.
Okay, Darwin.
Okay, so my name is Darren, and I am actually in the Hawaii Clubhouse Advocacy Coalition, and I'm at Waipahu Clubhouse. I live in Ever Beach. Okay, I'll call T-Top.
Oh, I want to apologize. What island are you on, please?
Oahu.
Thank you.
But you know what? I better call all the people that's in the group first, and then you folks can. So I'll call Kelly.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Kogo. I'm a member of the Hale'olu'ea Clubhouse, and I'm in Hilo on the Big Island. Oh, and then do I call? Oh.
You know what? Why don't I go ahead and call everyone? Okay, Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda from Haleo Honolulu Clubhouse on the island of Oahu, and I live in Pro City. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Flora.
My name is Flora. I live in Ever Beach. I'm from Oahu. I go to Waipahu Clubhouse, same as Darren. Thank you.
Thank you, Flora. Aaron?
Hi, my name is Aaron. I'm currently in Sacramento, California. I live on the island of Oahu, and I am a UH Manoa social work student who is doing his internship at the Kogo Clubhouse.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, now let's go to Tom.
Aloha, I'm Tom Lindsey. I'm calling presently from Wanalua Valley on the island of Oahu. Actually, I live on Kauai and my home is back there. So yeah, I'm calling from Oahu, but my home is on Kauai. Aloha.
Aloha, Tom. Thank you. Patrick.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Patrick Donnelly. I'm the statewide Oral Health Coalition Manager for Hawaii Public Health Institute, and I'm calling in from Kea'au, Big Island today.
Nice. Thank you, Patrick. Shelly.
Good morning, everybody. I work for Catholic Charities, and I'm currently calling in from Makiki area on Oahu.
Great. Thank you, Shelly. Eric.
I am from Ainahaina side, Oahu, and I'm currently an active volunteer for the MRC Medical Reserve Corps, but I'm still looking for getting into a position of community health worker. I graduated Kapilani Community College December for their community health worker course.
Great. Thanks for joining, Eric. Aloma.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am a new hire tobacco treatment specialist with Hamakua Kohala Health located in Honoka'a on the island of Hawaii, Big Island. And I live in Waimea, so that's where I'm calling from this morning.
Great. I love all this neighbor island representation. Yay. Mohammed.
Hello, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to put the video on so you can also see my face. Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Mohammed El-Shahabi. I am a public health nurse. I live in Kapolei and the island of Oahu. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mohammed. Jessica. Oh, no worries, Jessica. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Christina.
Aloha mai kākou. I'm Christina. I'm a master's student in the Nutritional Sciences program at UH Manoa, and I'm calling in from Kaimuki on Oahu.
Great. Thank you, Christina. Joy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joy Waters. I'm calling in from Haiku, Maui. I'm a citizen activist, and right now I'm doing citizen engagement trainings for a lobby group called Agriculture Fairness Alliance. And yeah, I'm loving your trainings. Thanks. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thanks for joining, everyone. And next is Christina. Oh, no, Christina. Did I call it? Christina. Or next would be Tina. Tita, sorry.
Del Hartman, agency director at the Maui Food Bank. I'm calling in from Kahului in Maui. Thank you.
Thank you. Donnell. No, Donnell, maybe Donnell's not available right now. Let's go to Robert.
Hello, I'm Robert Webb, and I am a self-advocate advisory, self-advocate for the Self-Advocate Advisory Council here on Maui. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thank you. And where on Maui do you come from?
Haiku.
Oh, haiku, nice. Thank you. Let's go to Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Farron, and I am a program developer with employment, internship, and mentorship programs grounded in trauma-informed care. And I am in Waimea on the Big Island of Hawaii.
Nice. Thank you. And Courtney?
Aloha, good morning, everyone. My name is Courtney. I am currently a postdoctoral fellow at Yale University, but I'm based in Oahu. So raised in Waipahu, left for mainland and back, but I was really excited to hear about this series just because I am home and I'm interested in figuring out ways to engage with my community and giving back a little. It's nice to meet everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you, Courtney. Donnell? No? Okay, Christelle? Oh, I guess Christelle left. I was trying to keep track of everybody, but I think we have everyone covered here unless I missed someone. So yeah, okay. Well, I just want to open up by just introducing a wonderful group that I've been working with at Focus. And this group is it's a statewide Hawaii Clubhouse Advocacy Coalition. And we have a few of our members here today to open us up this morning and get our blood going. Oh, thank you, Donnell. And so I would like to introduce to you Darwin.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Darwin, and I attend the Waipahu Aloha Clubhouse. I'm a member of the Hawaii Clubhouse Advocacy Coalition, which is a group of the Clubhouse members throughout the state that it's a psychosocial program where all the mental health disability population get together and do activities to help them to transition back into the community. So our advocacy coalition started meeting weekly on Zoom at the beginning of the pandemic. And at that time, we started to invite more and more people that would benefit us in advocating for our issues. We set agendas, we made some agendas for our meetings to share information and to gain support to address our concerns on issues that would improve our quality of life for us in a mental health population or in general. And the goal for us was to be involved in the community so we can make changes, so that we can make changes in policies. But that's an overview of what we do. And so now I'm going to introduce Kelly, the next speaker.
Hi, my name is Kelly Kogo, and this workshop is about telling your story. This is my story, and as an example to start the morning off. Here we go. When I was 19 years old, I was sitting in class at the University of Hilo when I broke down crying because of the auditory hallucinations I was having. My parents realized that I wasn't acting like myself and that I needed to go and see a psychiatrist. At 19, I was very obedient and knew my parents loved me. So I went to the doctor and he diagnosed me with paranoid schizophrenia. Even in today's society, there's a lot of stigma associated with mental illness. But I've been very loved and supported by family and friends. I joined the Hale'olu'ea Clubhouse when I was young and volunteered in preschools and as a nurse's aide in private homes. In 2003, I was able to earn a certificate of completion in early childhood education. I was able to work my way up to being a lead teacher with 8 2-year-old kids in Arizona with no assistant. but I struggled with a mental health relapse between 2011 and 2017. This is why it is very important to me to participate in advocating for the vendor expansion bill so that people with mental illness have hope and opportunities to become employed and get back into the community. Here ends my story. No hila hila, no shame in mental illness. The Clubhouse Advocacy Coalition has helped me to find my voice, be brave, and to share. I found my power. Thank you. And now here's Flora.
Aloha everyone, good morning. And my name is Flora Patton from Ever Beach, White Power Clubhouse. I am sharing about how to use our stories to move legislature to support issues during our Wednesday Advocacy Coalition meeting. We decided to invite our senator and representative to join us to share with them our concern about Wi-Fi, broadband, and the need for vendor expansion. We share our stories with 11 legislators on Zoom. Senator Keolo Koloe agreed to introduce the Spencer expansion bill on our behalf. We were also able to get our 30 legislators to sign on the bill. We also joined other disability advocates in pushing for a bill that would get rid of some minimum wages for people with disability. During our working group, we learned how to go on the Capitol website and to submit written and verbal testimony. Our vendor expansion bill did not pass. The best part of all this is that we learned how to use our stories to advocate for ourselves. Thank you for hearing and listening.
Thank you for sharing, Darwin, Kelly, and Flora. You guys have done amazing work this past year and a half, and we're just so glad that you were able to join us this morning. And now I'm going to hand it back to Laura. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, a big round of applause to all of our Clubhouse folks today. That was really awesome. Thank you for being here and sharing with us, the use of story and advocating for your policy, and that they were effective, right? That they got legislators to meet with them, use their stories to submit testimony. And while not every bill they advocated for, passed, they did get policymakers to introduce legislation. They were helpful in getting, bills through the process, and eventually some pass. And that is what we're trying to do, and really show that sharing their personal stories of their personal experiences actually help influence that process, right? And so that's what we want to talk about today, is kind of the why of sharing your story and a little bit of how you share your story. And going to give you a little bit of time actually to kind of practice doing that. And that's kind of what we're going to focus the rest of our time on today. So I am going to share my screen, and I have a PowerPoint. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Some of you here know me, some of you don't, but I have spent the last 25 years doing community organizing, political campaign work, community advocacy work, all over the country. And so the number one thing, though, in any of this work is connecting it to the personal, right? And we make it personal by sharing our stories. And right, anytime we're trying to advocate policy, or I'm championing a candidate or an issue, whatever, there's a reason why I do that, and that why comes out of my personal story, and how I put that story together and how I tell it helps in making it a more effective, more persuasive argument. And so I'm going to kind of go through some of that thought process with you all here today. So here, the reason, right, that we tell our story, there are many, many reasons why we tell our story. And here are some of them. And one, believe it or not, when we tell our story, we're seen as the leader on that topic. And so it helps us be more persuasive. The story connects facts and data to a person, right? Instead of just spewing a lot of facts at something, it's, you know, way more effective if we can connect that information to a person. There are actually historical, sociological, and even biological reasons why telling your story is a more effective method in doing advocacy. So why do we tell stories? Historically, you know, we've been telling stories since the dawn of time, right? We've got cave drawings. Gilgamesh is the oldest story in the world. You know, we created printing presses so we could write stories down and people could read them. Today it's TED Talks, right? All of those kinds of things. In Hawaii, you know, we have Mo'olelo, and this is, you know, I love this idea and the understanding of how Mo'olelo helps us gain power with the each telling and retelling of our story. And I love this word, and I think, you know, so I always love to include it in when we're talking about storytelling. Although, quite frankly, in any native culture, anywhere, storytelling is essential to passing on history, passing on the telling of our lives and different things. And so just always keep that in our, you know, in our head. Sociologically, right, storytelling derives and transmits values that we're trying to share, we're trying to pass along, we're trying to, you know, impress us upon somebody, right? We see that in myths, religions, fables, even our family lore. All of our families, we have stories in our families, right? And those stories help us identify our morality. It tells our own stories, and by telling our stories, we do that so we define our own narrative instead of letting somebody else define that narrative for us. Here are the biological reasons, right? When we tell our stories, things happen in our brains, believe it or not, actually, like, you know, going on. And you can tell the difference, right? These two circles are, one is, you know, what happens in your brain when we tell stories versus what happens in our brain when we just are passing along data. And you can see in the storytelling one, a lot more little things are happening or going on. Our brain becomes more activated. There's also things that happen that when we tell stories and people hear stories, it's kind of a two-way street, right? That chemical reactions actually happen in our brain. We release oxytocin and dopamine, right? So when we release these things, the listener who we're trying to persuade, AKA our legislators and elected officials, they're actually more likely to listen, and they're more likely to remember what you're telling them if you're telling a story as opposed to just sharing facts and figures, right? So this is why I love this piece, because I just learned this a couple of years ago as I was doing some training on telling stories, and I was just like, there's actually a biological reason we should do this. And my brain works that way. I get a little weird, so that kind of excites me about it. So, right, we tell our story. There are reasons why we tell our story. You know, what is the issue that we're trying to change? How does the story connect to the issue? And we need to write a narrative. So this is where we're going to put you to work a little bit. So we're going to go through what that is about. When I say narrative, what does that mean? And that narrative is just, what is the story you're telling? And again, how does it connect to the issue that you're trying to talk to somebody about? And so we kind of want to walk through those steps a little bit. So there are basically 5 steps, and here's what they are, right? You always want to have a hero to your story. And that hero should be a person, whether it's you, which is preferable, or it's someone connected, you know, but it should be a person. It should never be a story about an organization. It should be about you. Then you want to set the scene. What is the picture you're trying to paint, right? What is the kind of stuff going on around, you want to, I always refer to this as kind of setting the table as well. What is that setting you're trying to kind of get across? Then you need to express what the challenge is, right? So it's, what is the issue we're trying, what is the challenge we have faced that has kind of caused this, you know, story to unfold? For me, it would be, you know, I often talk about my own personal reason about why I get into this work. And my challenge at the time was, you know, children helping children, you know, problem with children having proper legal representation or whatever it is, right? So that's the challenge. What is the choice we're trying to make? And it's either, you know, the choice is very simple. We're either going to do something about it or you're not, right? But you want to lay that choice out to whoever you're advocating to. And then the outcome is, what do you want the outcome to be? Which is generally, we want this policy, or we need to change this thing, is the outcome we want, right? So we've got those 5 steps. So now what I want everybody to do, and hopefully, first of all, I want you to grab a pen and paper if you don't already have that in front of you. Everybody got a pen and paper? Give me kind of a
yes, I have.
Thumbs up somewhere somehow to let us know that you're ready to go. And I can't, and Christy, I can't see the whole screen. So if everybody's good. Or in the chat, just kind of say something.
I'm ready.
All right. So, all right. So now with pen and paper in hand, what I want you all to do is think about, right, you're all here because you're advocating somewhere, somehow, or you're interested in advocating, or you're, you know, some of you are with a coalition, some of you are doing other work, you're here to self-advocate here, whatever. So you probably have somewhere in mind of an issue that you're trying to persuade, again, generally an elected official, to do something about. So I want you to write that topic at the top of your paper. It's the first thing I want you to do. The next thing to do is, you've got these 5 steps, and I want you to walk through them. So thinking again about your issue, you're connecting your issue to your story, which is generally why this is important to you. And I want you to walk through these steps. So one, who's the hero of the story, again, should be probably you. So, and then what is the setting, right? What is that picture you're kind of trying to lay at the table? What is the challenge that you're facing? What is the choice you think that legislator that we're trying to make? Generally, it's we're either going to do something about it or we're not. And then what's the outcome you're hoping? So I want everybody to we're going to give you 5 minutes. It's 9:30. I'm going to give you to 9:35. And then
sorry, Laura, can you add on the chat 5 things? Because I write slow. I'm not fast writing.
I'm going to leave this up on the screen. Do you still need it in the chat box?
You know what? I'll type it in the chat for her, Laura.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Laura. Sometimes I get a little distracted because my family's outside a garage sale. But could you just please repeat the first step? I forget what the first step was.
The hero. Who's the hero of the story?
But what's the first? We're supposed to write an issue or a story.
Yeah, you're
at the top of the page.
Yes.
Just for your own context, what's the issue you're trying to address? So it's for your reference.
Okay, I heard you correctly. Yeah. Thank you so much, Laura.
No problem. Anybody else? Feel free. Obviously, feel free to ask a question if you've got a question. 2 more minutes. One more minute. All right. Get everybody to wrap up their writing. Come back to the
Not
group.
reading, not for me.
All right. All right. I'm now going to ask for 2 volunteers, and not to exclude the Clubhouse people, but because you already told your stories this morning, I'm going to see if I can get a couple other people to flow in. All right. All right. If I can get 1 or 2 people to raise their hands, and we'll do a little exercise with me, just walking through your story. Get 1 or 2 brave souls. I know you're out there. Sometimes a little harder on a Saturday morning. We don't feel like chatting. Anybody? Anybody out there willing to share their story? It's not hard. It's not scary.
So share the whole thing or just one? One topic.
Well, Flora, we're going to hold off on the Clubhouse folks because you guys already shared your stuff this morning.
Oh,
Trying to look for somebody else who's in here today that is willing to share what they wrote down. Joy, excellent. Thank you, Joy, so much. All right. Here's what I want you to do, Joy. I want you to think about, right? You've got this topic that you've picked. You're going to meet with a legislator. Tell me your story. And then I'm gonna kind of fishbowl it with you a little bit, and
Okay, I'm just
I'm gonna, we'll just
I'm being a guinea pig for the group because
thank you so much.
all right. So here's my hero in setting. I'm just going to go through the things that you wrote down, or the issue. The issue is more farm bill subsidy money for climate smart crops. The hero is me, and here's the setting. I have chronic illness, and diet plays a strong role in health. The challenge is healthy food is expensive. An organic apple costs more than a McDonald's hamburger. I didn't really understand about the choice part, but the outcome for the legislator would be please support the farms bill, which is something I'm helping a group lobby for at a federal level. Please support the farms bill, which provide more money to farmers who want to transition away from animal agriculture and towards producing more fruits and vegetables.
Got it. Okay.
That's what I got.
No, that's perfect. And here's what we're gonna do. So one, the choice is a fairly simple. Should food be affordable and healthy, or should it not? Right? You're laying out in some ways the choice to the legislator. So that's kind of where it's framed. So now what I want you to think about, like, you have those steps. It's now kind of, you wouldn't read it that way. Like, how would you tell that story to a legislator. So for example, right, you know, hello, my name is Joy, you're meeting with a legislator, you're gonna, your current situation, which is that setting, right? It's then the challenge, you laid out the challenge really well. Like I said, the choice is, do we make food more accessible, more healthy?
Maybe our choice can be, since this is specifically about my tax dollars going through the farm bill, the choice can be our farm bill, the choice is, should our farm bill subsidies support what the USDA says is healthy eating? Because right now it doesn't, or I'm not sure, yeah.
Nope, that would be one of them. There's a lot of different options you can play with, but you're getting at the right idea, right? It's the, right, you want, I mean, I often, because a lot of our work tends to be around, like if I were to say, you know, minimum wage or childcare, I mean, our choice is, should we have affordable childcare or not, right? Should we pay people a living wage or should we not? But
okay, so should our farm bill subsidies support what the USDA says is good, healthy eating guidelines or not?
Correct. That would be one, or you could, yeah, that is exactly right. You got it. I was thinking, they're like, should our tax dollars go towards making sure we have healthy foods, or, you know?
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
You could get even more basic, but you were right. You're getting exactly at the right idea. It's mostly, again, you're wanting to frame with the legislator what the clear choices that they're making. And you want as well for them to always, you want to kind of phrase the question always in some ways that at the end, their answer to the question is, yeah, that they should be doing what you're asking them to do, right?
I don't really like that word should, but I get what you're saying. I mean,
yeah.
But should our tax dollars make sure we have affordable, healthy food or not?
Right.
Or don't you think our tax dollars, how about that? Don't you think our tax dollars should make sure we have affordable, healthy food? Isn't that, can I say that?
Yep. Right. Like I said, however you want to frame it, the idea is you're trying to clearly get them that they can't tell you, that you don't want them to be able to say no. Like, right. You've laid out one, because you're sharing your personal story. You also want them to think about it like they would be telling basically no to you, because you just right, which most people don't want to do. I'm not going to really want to tell you no to your face, but right. So you've laid out this story and what the challenge is. You're asking them to make a choice, and the outcome, you want them to agree with your outcome. So that's why you want to frame that choice question in a way that like they're agreeing with what you're asking them to do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm just kind of,
yes,
okay.
It does.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, see, this is a good, everybody kind of not really quite sure. All right, anybody else got a good narrative they put together that they want to share? I know y'all did, because y'all are working on some pretty amazing things. And if you notice, I'm really good at just waiting. So I'd really love it. One of you would share your story with us this morning. Really, none of you are working on anything exciting or have a personal experience of what you're advocating for? Like, there's no wrong answer, so I don't want anybody to feel that they can't, you know.
I don't know if there's like the thing I'm kind of working on. I mean, I'm working on other things.
Yeah.
Like with the Self-Advocacy Advisory Council,
Mhm.
but they're not really like, some of them are like I don't know how like there can be, because it involves a group in a community, like for example, a new bowling alley, like that's
Let me rephrase this for you, Robert. It doesn't have to be something you're currently working on. It could just be an issue you're passionate about. So
Okay.
you had mentioned in the chat box that, right, that you are working on wanting to get disabled people working and living independently, correct?
Well, I don't know if that was me, but it could have been someone else, but
Oh, you're
I
right.
would
Sorry,
like
that
that.
was Eric. Never mind. I
I would
apologize.
like that, but one of the things is the issue is there's not enough like people with higher functioning, like I have high functioning autism, and people with high functioning autism doesn't have the services. The issue is that they don't have the services needed to basically become living independently. They don't have like services. They usually, like people like me, I'm stuck at home. I don't have a driver's license. You know, I'm learning to take the bus thanks to the services I am getting, but like a lot of other people, a lot of other people with autism, and like there's a like limited staff that we have limited staff here on Maui. Like the wait time is just like trying to get like someone to take you out to do community services or community like outings is just it's just ridiculous.
Okay, so this is great. So you've kind of laid out, right? Obviously, you're the hero of the story. You've got this personal experience. You live it every day, right? The setting you just laid out. You're on Maui, very limited services, access to things in your community. I think your challenge, right, is how do we overcome that? Like, how do we address this disparity in our community around, especially with folks with high functioning autism? The choice would be we either do something about it or we don't. I don't know if there's a specific piece of legislation, either at your county level or your state level, but there could be if there was potentially, right? Your choice would either be, we either find a way to provide more services to help folks in our community, or we don't. And the outcome you want, obviously, is more and better services so that our folks in our communities or who with high functioning autism can actually be be better participants in our community, correct? I mean, that's kind of what we're going for, at least I hope we're going for. So that would be, you can lay that out. Now, obviously, again, you want to practice kind of writing that story out so it doesn't feel like you're just walking through steps, but it feels more like you're telling a story. But those would be, do you see how those components kind of work and how that plays out?
Okay.
Yeah. But you're right. So this is, I think you're a great example in the sense of like, this is just, you don't have a specific piece of legislation, but it's just a broader issue. But as you're out trying to convince maybe legislators that we need legislation to address this, mostly because it's kind of a funding issue, whether it's either at your county level or the state level, you would still want to lay that out, because you're then asking, and the outcome would be, we need some legislation to take care of this, right? To address this. So that would be how we're doing it. All right, Van, anything else you want to? Anything else you want to add to that, Robert?
No.
Awesome.
Maybe Robert can add where to get involved. Like, is there a website for this program if people wanted to volunteer?
Well, I am a part of the self-advocacy.
Oh, We lost your sound, Robert.
Oh.
No, okay, you're good now. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, my internet connection is unstable.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, Joey makes a good point. If you're just out having this conversation, you're trying to persuade, if you will, other community members to just be engaged, active in your issue before you get to the policy side. Yeah, one of your outcomes would be, here's how you get involved. And then you would say, you know, here's the website, or here's who you call, or here's what you're doing. So your outcomes could be different things. If you're specifically talking about a piece of policy, your outcome is getting that policy passed. If it's you're out advocating on an issue and you're trying to get more people engaged, your outcome is then here's how I get involved. If you're out trying to help get an elected official, somebody who's running for office, obviously the outcome is please go vote for this person because they're gonna help us do X, Y, or Z, right? So many different outcomes depending on who you're having a conversation with. All right. Anybody else?
Before we move on, Laura, I really sincerely would like to know, since I live in Maui, Robert's such a touching story. Like, what if I did want to volunteer? Where do I go to learn more about this issue if I did want to volunteer, Robert?
Let's see. Like, I don't know, like, to specifically address this issue. I don't know if it specifically address this issue. I mean, there is the Self-Advocacy Advisory Council for people with disabilities, but there's also the and that is connected to the Department of Division of this, or what's it called? The Division of Disability, or I forgot, the DDD.
Oh, Department of just, of course, now that you said that, you said DDD and now my brain is all. If anybody wants to look that up and put it in the chat on the side for Joy, that would be really wonderful. I can't remember what DDD stands for. We're so used to
no, it's not Department. It's
Department of Developmental Disabilities. Maybe.
Oh yeah. Department of, yes, that's it.
I know I'd get there eventually if I verbalized it out. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you to both Robert and Joy for sharing. I really appreciate it, and I hope that helped folks in kind of seeing how that narrative, those 5 steps, worked. And like I said, and obviously, again, the thing you want to do when you're prepping for when you're going to talk to a legislator, or you're thinking about your testimony or doing whatever, is to kind of use those steps to draft out whatever it is you want to say, and then practice it before you go say it. Because obviously, again, you don't want to make it sound like you're walking through a bunch of steps, but you really want to do it in a storytelling format. And the more we practice it out loud, the better we become at it. And I would say, practice it with your family and friends, whoever's willing to kind of listen, but really practicing talking about it really is also an important part of the process, because we want to sound like we're comfortable with what we're saying. It should kind of flow as much as we possibly can. Given that we all know we get a little nervous when we're public speaking or talking to elected officials, which is why just practicing it kind of helps with that, not being so nervous about it. And so just want to put that out there, that's kind of why we do that. So, oops, so now we're going to go into, well, I want to take a little thread. We're at 9:53, and we had kind of talked about doing a break, but I think maybe we'll just power through and get done a little early if everybody's okay with that. So anyway, so the next thing we want to kind of talk about is the slides I'm going through right now is some written testimony. I'm going to kind of come back to this because we're going to now talk about, we've written our story. We've talked to an elected official. It's now session time, right? We've got pieces of legislation that we know are kind of coming up that address our issues and do those different things. And one of the most important things that we do is we submit testimony on those pieces of legislation. And we, you know, the way that we do that the most is through the Hawaii State Legislative website. You can go in person if you're on Oahu and go testify at a committee hearing. You can go do your one-on-ones with legislators or whatever. But generally, you know, when we're submitting testimony for pieces of legislation, we do it through the Hawaii State Legislative website. And we're gonna go live to that page in a minute, but we're gonna kind of run through some basics now. And so you're going to go to the website. When you pull it up, it's going to kind of look like this. I'll show you what it currently looks like in a minute. But the very first thing that you have to do is you have to create an account for yourself in order to submit testimony. And so it's very easy. You go to again, if maybe Jalen or Christy could put the State Ledge website link in the chat box, that would be really wonderful. But when you first go there, the front page is going to somewhat look like this. And the first thing you have to do is you have to register yourself. And it's really simple. It really is just signing up with an email address and a password, and that's it. And then it'll send you a kind of confirmation link and you're in. And then once you're in, oh, I'm going to go back. Sorry, I've got too many things open, which is creating a problem. Once you're in the site, we're going to kind of go through what it looks like, the things where you need to mostly do this work. So like I said, you're going to come to the front page and it's going to look like this. And you're going to want to look up your bill that you want to submit testimony onto. And you're going to do it one of two ways. You're either going to do it if you already know the bill number, you're going to put it in here. Or if you're not quite sure of the bill number, you can do a keyword search, right? So this is what it's going to, and you're going to, sorry, having a little frog in my throat. Morning. Right, and you're gonna go there. That's where you're gonna put that in. Once you do that, you've figured out the bill number. And again, I'm gonna walk through this actually on a live site, but just hold on for a second. This is more of what the front page looks like, what kind of looks like. I just wanted to give you the bottom part. So your bill number would go in here. You could search by a keyword here. You would then do that, and then you would press this little, actually you're gonna put your number in here. You could go to go. It'll take you to that bill number. You could do a keyword search. I'll show you what that looks like. Another place that you're going to look for is if you already want to, you know all that, you're going to submit testimony. You're going to click on the submit testimony button. And it'll take you to where you submit testimony. So when you click on that orange button, you're going to come up with a page that looks like this. And the reason I can't actually show you this live because the State Ledge website, this page isn't active until session starts. So that's why. But if you click on that little orange button that says submit testimony, it'll take you here. And this is what it looks like. And it's a fairly easy, your bill number would go in here once you've figured out what your bill number is. This where it says if you know a hearing is going on, you can click on this and it'll tell you when the hearing is happening. But there's a number of ways to submit testimony. They're fairly easy. You can just quickly say you support or oppose that piece of legislation, or if you're just wanting to submit comments. We do this often at HCAN if we're kind of a bill we started out really liking, but the language is now changed, but we might still like the idea of it, but we're not, you kind of sometimes end up in midway through session where it's kind of like, well, we like the idea of it, but the language isn't exactly what we want. So we're going to just submit comments during this hearing because we'd like to see the language change. So that could be what you do. If you're going to go, it'll ask you if you're going to come testify in person or not. Mostly because they will put you on a list in the hearing if you're going to come in person. So that's a yes or no. You can either write your testimony in here. But what I really suggest, and is the most effective, is to pre-write your testimony, put it on letterhead, and there's a way to do that, and then attach that file here, and then you're gonna hit, there's a support button, right? The other thing that's, although this is now flipped, because this step over here actually is, if you pull up this, the other nice thing about this site, if you have an account, is once you've submitted testimony, it'll keep track of your lists on the side. And so anytime you come to this page, you can see the status of that bill. Obviously green is if you supported it, you know, kind of all those different things. So that's what this page looks like. Oops, all right. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen a minute because I want to go show you the live website here for a second. I just gotta switch over my screen. Give me a moment to get where I need to go. But any questions so far on that while I'm kind of playing around with my thing so I can get where I want to go. All right. So here's what the live website right now, if you click on the link, which got put in the chat box, here is actually what the Hawaii State Legislature currently looks like today. Now, the things that are important, right? This gray box in the middle is really important because it gives you kind of the current, what's happening that day at the Capitol or that week, different things kind of going on. So as you can see right now, obviously the building is closed currently. They just released the legislative timetable. So you can see the calendar for this legislative session, which looks like this. So you know when opening day is and all the different kind of, always a good handy thing to have on, just so you're aware of what's happening. They've obviously are hiring right now. If anybody needs a job, they're hiring for what they call session only employees, which, you know, so kind of temporary, not permanent work. Whoops. They, right, they've had some special sessions, but normally as well on here would be, you would normally see during session kind of committee hearing schedules, all these different kinds of things to keep you up to date. So as you can see from the screenshot from the PowerPoint, this is what I was talking about. During session, these three buttons in particular will be orange because they will then be live. Right now, I can't get to them. Like, right, if I click on the testimony box, it'll, oh, I'm not signed in. Hold on a minute. I'm gonna log in. All right, so this is, sorry, this is what I currently logged in now. So I can't really look up at a bill. Other than Christy or Jalen have a bill, I can't actually look up a bill right now because we're not in session. But if I'm gonna type in minimum wage, right, because I might be interested in minimum wage is something I want to know about. And if I hit the go button, there we go. This is what you get, right? It'll give you all of the different bills and their statuses of when they were happening. Now, obviously, this is all last session, so none of this is dry, but you can see, you know, a number of bills happened around minimum wage. And if I click on this bill number, it'll give me the PDF of, this was a committee hearing. This is something that happened on minimum wage. So anyway, this is one way to find the bills that you're trying to get at. And so, you know, the statuses, if I click on status next to a bill, this will take me to, right, the actual bill as you're going through the legislature, kind of what's happening with it. So this one during last session, it got introduced on a particular day. It had its first reading. It was then referred to a couple of committees, and then it didn't go anywhere after being introduced in the committees. So it's now being carried over to next session, which just means it'll go back through the process again. So if this were something that I wanted to then submit testimony on, again, I can click the submit testimony here. Probably not going to take me anywhere because so this was the online test, right? It takes me to where I would submit online testimony. And last year, right, we had a session that was all online. So they had all sorts of information that they provide you. Here's how they were processing, all those kinds of things. Like I said, normally if we were during session, you would then have those things I showed you on the PowerPoint, but because we're not in session, this page is not live, which is why it's always a little weird to do this. But anyway, that's how that works. And is that clear to everybody? I know it gets a little like messy as you're trying to kind of go back through different pieces. All right. Anyway, so that is the LED website. I'm going to show you a few other things that you should be aware of and are just in the terms that they are super helpful on this website. Close that out for a minute. So the first thing, a couple of things I want to point out is if you don't know who your state legislators are, and some of us do and some of us don't, but super important that you know who your personal state legislators are, because also it's really important that they hear from you as their constituent. You shouldn't, not as effective to be going and talking to people who are not your direct legislators and of whom you are not a constituent. A little bit different if we're on a lobby day with an organization and we're making the rounds, but otherwise, you know, the most effective thing is that most effective first words that can come out of your mouth when you introduce yourself to that person is, hi, I'm Laura Nevitt. I am your constituent. They are elected to office. And so it's really important for them to know. But if you don't know, right, the first thing up here in the corner is this find your legislator button, which is really great because sometimes we know and sometimes we don't know. It'll take us here to this fun little interactive page. Of course, internet's being really slow today. So anyway, so you're gonna get this page. You're gonna type in your address. I'll do mine just so you can see what it looks like. And it'll give me a nice little map of where I am, and then it'll tell me, I gotta move this over. It'll tell me where what my Senate district is, right? So my Senate district, I'm in Senate District 12. Sharon Murawaki is my state senator. And my House district is House District 22. And Representative Adrian Tam is my state rep, and all of their contact information. So that's just really important stuff to know. And if you don't, that's how you find out. So the other really good things to know, right, are where to submit testimony if you already know your bill numbers. And again, I just showed there's kind of a couple of ways to get to how you submit testimony. You've either looked up the bill here and it's taken you to the bill page, or you've done a keyword search and then clicked on status and it's taken you to the bill page and you saw that little blue submit button. Or if you already know the number, you can do it here. Hearing notifications, again, if you're tracking a bill, it's good to know when it's getting committee hearings. But if you click on this page, this is a really great way. All the different committees you can click on here and add them to a list that you create, and it'll automatically send you lovely notices in your email box when those hearings are happening. So it's just automatic. You don't have to go in every day if you don't want to. I mean, some of us that actually lobby professionally, we're in the website multiple times a day, so we kind of already go look at that. But that's where that is. So you can get a better way to track your hearing notices. The other is measure tracking. And this is, you can see, right? I track a lot of bills. I convene what we call the Working Families Coalition. And we have a bunch of issues that we tackle every year. So we then have a bunch of bills that we do. And so what's nice about this measure tracking is I can create a list of bills. And I'll just do again, we were talking about minimum wage. I'm just going to show you how to start it. So if I create a list, right, and just create 2, it gives me here. I can then show my list. I don't currently have anything in here, but as if I discovered minimum wage bills happening next session, I would put their bill numbers in here and it would just keep a list for me running. And I'm going to show you kind of what it looked like last year for me, although I only had 1 by the end of the year, right? We had SB 676. I can make notes if I need to, if I'm kind of wanting to know what's going on. And then the nice thing that happens, we'll have to see if this works, because again, we're not during session, but if I had a bunch of bills, I could then generate a report. May not do it. This page could be right. So it does. It's generated this report. And this is just a good way I can pull up again. If I had a bunch of them, this list would then, you know, every bill I had, but it helps me keep track of what is the current status of that bill, right? What hearing is it in? Did it die? Did it get signed by the governor? Whatever happened as we go through process. So it just is a good way, especially with a lot of them going on. I can just pull this up and it's an easy reference point for me to say, where are all my bills at and what's going on? And then as stuff kind of, what I'll do personally, as stuff kind of dies through session, I then take it off my list so I then don't have to worry about it anymore. But this page is, I find really, for myself, really useful in just kind of keeping track of all of the different things that I'm kind of working on. So that is one. The legislative list, again, if you just need to know who all the different legislators are, then they do them alphabetically. Kind of personally, I find it really annoying. I can't sort by district, but that's just me. Sometimes it's just easier to look up alphabetically. Committees, here are all the different committees in both our Senate and House, which is nice. Again, this is all of them together, but if you just wanted to know what were the Senate committees or what the House committees, and then you'll see, right, it's what the committee and then who the chairs of that committee are. But if you also then click on this, it'll give you the full, although again, we don't have, on the Senate side, we're not in session. So it'll also tell you who the rest of the members are and what's going on with that committee. So that's a really useful thing to know. Reports and lists, I also find really good. We use this at HCAN. We're part of what's called the Keiki Caucus. And so they'll have, you know, different things, but this is a good way to kind of if you're just kind of interested in, if you get really policy wonky, kind of what were the actions taken on the floor that day, you can, you know, all sorts of different things that you can click on. And what I would really advise pre-session is get onto this website, create yourself an account, and go in here and literally just click on everything and see where it takes you, what information it provides you, just because we all process information differently, and what makes sense to us and why it's going to find useful is different for everybody about how we keep track of our lists and do our different things. And so that's really what I did when I first started this work 3 years ago. I actually was the policy director at HCAN, so I had to learn this pretty quickly. But I'm also a little bit more of a tactile learner, so I found that, like, I just love to go in and I literally clicked on every single one of these buttons and said, where did it take me? What information did it provide? And then I would, like, remember, you know, how it worked and where it was, because I even found the person that had been the policy person before me, how they set it up and what they did when they were trying to kind of explain it to me, I didn't find as useful. So that's why, you know, it really becomes a personal thing. But take the time to figure out what you're going to find is useful to you and what's the easiest way to get there. Because the other thing I found at this website is, as you just saw with testimony, right? There are many different pathways a lot of times to get to where you want to go. And sometimes I find, you know, after I played around a bit, that like, oh, there's actually an easier way to do that. So, and then, you know, as you work with your other advocates and other people, like share that information, because you never know. I learn stuff from people every day that somebody will tell me that like this other cool way to do something, and I find it really fun. The last thing I want to share with you is some links that just, again, informational. And I'm going to make sure, hopefully I go to the right place. Right, so this links page is really helpful, right? A bunch of different places to go get information. The two in particular that I want to say, bookmark these pages and call these people anytime if you have any questions about a piece of policy or this website, or you can't find something, or you just generally need help. And I'm going to say the very first is the public access room. These guys are phenomenal. And really are, get there eventually, hold on a minute, really are kind of the angels and goddesses of the state legislative building. And they really will, any question you have, call them, stop. If you're at the Capitol, go stop in and say hello. This, like I said, it's a small room at the Capitol up on the, I believe the fourth floor. Is it third anyway, third or fourth floor, I can't remember. And they will, you need access to a computer because you're there and whatever. But they really are, any question you have, you're doing research on a bill, you know, working with the state legislator about an issue. Has this bill already been introduced or not somewhere? So, but they can help you with any questions. They even us people have been doing forever. Christy can, you know, Jalen, myself, we call them all the time. I know that our actual lobbyist people are in and out of there, and you know, so I'm making that point to say, don't think you can't call because you're just a community person. That's actually what they're here for. And again, and as individuals, the people that work in this office are some of the nicest people you will ever meet, and are super helpful. And so this is probably the #1 place besides the Ledge website. This is the other place. The other thing I like about their website is they've just all sorts of great informational places. So even what we're talking about today, this engagement and using the Ledge website, most of it, quite frankly, we have stolen from them. I'm going to give them credit. And normally we would actually have them come and do this piece, but they were just busy. So like I said, look familiar, I've used this slide, right? So they've got it all here. It's great. They've got great tips about all sorts of things. And so again, another place I would really suggest, bookmark this, come in here, and again, click on all the different links. You know, they have great advocacy tips on how to advocate and submit testimony and writing testimony and all that kind of stuff. So that is here. And I just really want to emphasize those two pieces of using the website. I really have to say, I think the two most important are this page and the public access room. The only other one I would say kind of secondary would also then be the Legislative Reference Bureau page, which is actually kind of tied to PAR, but this is, again, just resources places. But that is just, again, more of a secondary one. And I would just really say this and PAR are probably the two main websites that you want to have on hand at all times if you're trying to advocate. So I'm going to stop it there. And I wanted to see if anybody had any questions. Sorry.
I have a question. This Flora again. I forgot my password, so it's from my Clubhouse staff gave me my password.
Yep.
Then I had to now either look for it or I have to create my new password. Yeah, create the name and password, something like that, ID. So
Yeah, so you can either reset your password if you know what your email address is that you logged in with. And then it's just a normal, like any website. If you forget your password, you just got to reset it. And they'll just send you a new password. Or yeah, you can go ahead and just create a whole new account. But if you've already used the email once, like I said, it'll probably just say this account already exists, and then you need to just reset the password. Happens a lot, happens to all of us. I have I've taken to, I have a whole, quite frankly, a whole little book because I'm horrible and I have to write everything down. And while I still have some of it saved, like my laptop, and if I'm in Safari, we'll save it. Even that sometimes doesn't work. So I'm always just have the handy dandy handwritten backup copy because you just never know. Yeah, Kelly.
Oh, hi, Laura. So I have a question. We're working on this bill to raise minimum wage to $18 by 2026.
Correct.
And Christy is very active with us. With our group.
Yep.
So do you have any tips? 'Cause I feel like you have so much information, but I know Christy helps us, but just because you're doing this what do you call it, presentation. So can you give me any tips? We're doing sign waving even on Oahu. Flora is very active, and I'm kind of like in charge of the one on the Big Island. I'm sorry, I don't want to just go on and on, but so with the so I've been active with the Venice expansion bill that we were trying to pass too, and we're still working on it. And we did we went on to the capital.hawaii.gov website, like how you're showing us. We did our verbal testimony, we did our written testimony, we did our verbal testimony. So I'm sorry, my point is, so what, I guess that's the process. What we did with that last bill, I pretty much know the process.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I just want to share that, I guess, but that's
great.
So have you heard about, you're showing us the minimum wage.
Yeah, that was the bill from last.
Showing us.
Yeah, that was the bill from last year. There'll be a new bill this year. And like I said, Christy's kind of heading up the Raise Up Hawaii Coalition, which is dealing with minimum wage. And then like I said, I convene the working families, and it's kind of always one of our issues. But right, so it is there'll be a new bill number this year. Actually, there'll probably be a couple of bills. And then it's just kind of keeping track of, right, which is the better bill, and the bill we're trying to get, because we already know there's probably going to be some competing minimum wage bills. So really it's just kind of keeping that. And you did exactly right? So you and Flora, same thing, like you guys set up accounts on the website, you submitted testimony, right? We just want to make sure that in that testimony that personal story piece is happening, that it's not just the data. I mean, we all know the minimum wage in Hawaii sucks, excuse my French, that this is, it's way too low. It does not, all those kinds of things, but it becomes then, even in the written one, it's important to share that personal experience, the personal why this is important, even written. And so, and then getting that in, because they do eventually read them all, especially staff, we know will read them more so, but the staff are the ones that feed that information to the state legislator. I would also point out that the earlier you can get your testimony in, the better. they like to have kind of a 48-hour prior to a hearing. They like testimony in, and that'll also assure that the legislators themselves read it. Whereas the closer to the hearing it gets, the less likely they'll read it prior to getting to their committee hearing. The staff will still read them, but we got to remember that the legislators are running, from committee hearing to committee hearing to having meetings and people coming into their office or whatever. And so the more time we can kind of give them to, they get those reports prior to going to the committee hearing, but it gets submitted 5 minutes before, they're not likely to read it. Now, I say that we all live crazy lives, and so getting it in regardless is just as important. And we even sometimes submit it late, so it's on the record, and they will go back kind of and look at stuff later. But this is where it's, again, kind of thinking ahead about schedules and what you want to write, and kind of having stuff ready to go so that you're not in the crunch as much as possible. Again, as we get later into session, that becomes harder to do just because we don't get notices until 48 hours ahead of time before a hearing is going to happen. And so then we're all like running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to like get stuff done. But earlier on it's a little easier. But that's where it's, I think if you if you've got it written out ahead of time at start of session, then it's just kind of slightly modifying as you go. And so this is why it's good. What you had your hand raised,
Kelly? Yes, thank you. Just to pass a bill, it's really like all up to us about getting on the website. And I know the session is going to start up in January 19. Is that right?
Correct.
Wednesday. Yep. Let's see. So that's the whole process that everyone does, like how we're doing it.
Correct.
Everyone's doing the same thing.
Everyone's doing.
We also, and then I'm just going to share this, but I want to work on a bill, and I'm not sure how to do it. I mean, I can ask Christy and all you two, but okay, so when we spoke with our representatives, they came on our panel, like at least 11 of them. Did you hear about that? So they, like from the very beginning, when we started our advocacy coalition at the Clubhouse, all the representatives and senators came on. That was really impressive. But one of my questions to them was, do you know that transportation on the Big Island for people with disabilities needs improvement? Mm-hmm. So that's something I really, besides the minimum wage, which it might take years, like every year they may step it up like a couple of dollars a year, as I understand, like till 2026, but I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. But so one of mine, because there was an issue with some people in my Clubhouse, the people I know on the Big Island. Someone suggested like one bus going from Hilo to Kona. So this is the transportation with the buses, the local buses here on the Big Island, because Oahu is like, I've taken buses on Oahu and in Arizona. But okay, so, and I know my two representatives on the Big Island is Representative Mark Nakashima. He's out like, I think like Honoka'a side. And then my neighbor actually too is Representative Richard Onishi. So I reach out to them and my representative, I really have to get brave, we all need just to, even to speak, Laura. I mean, just to speak and to listen. I need to be a better listener too. But so that's what you suggest. We just follow the process. And I guess I get a little anxious, like I want to, like, what do I do? What can I? So we're doing sign waving. I'm so excited about the sign waving with minimum wage. But the other issue, I want to work on the transportation too. So that's something I'm kind of like interested in.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I always tell people it's not rocket science, it's time consuming. And it is, and this is where like practicing your story with lots of different people, one, to get, as you talked about, right? I said this earlier, like we get nervous about talking to our elected officials, and some of us practicing that story enough just helps because we've now said it a bazillion times and it's just kind of second nature. The other thing I want people to keep in mind about elected officials, they're just people in your community. They're right. They are your neighbors. They are, you know, whatever. And in some, and I really want you to think about it, the fact that you are their boss, right? As the elected official, you are their boss. They're there to serve you. That is their job. Now, they might not always act like that, but that is the reality of it, right? And so their whole purpose is to listen to what you have to say as the person who elected them to office. And so, you know, I say that in the sense like I, you know, empower you all to not be a, you know, it's not a scary thing, because also at the end of the day, they're just people. They're just people like you and me. They don't, you know, they're not an expert in anything. They're just, you know, most people hopefully have gone in because they want to serve their community. And so, but part of that serving is that they need to listen to you and hear from you and do whatever. And then actually, the more that you can go and talk to them and inform them of what's going on, it actually makes them better at their job, because that, you know, the more people from their community that they hear from, the better understanding they have of the needs of their community. So, you know, this is kind of why it's a joint effort between community and elected officials. Like, we're all better if we actually talk to each other. So, but we do somehow, human nature, you know, think somebody's elected and that somehow makes them a scary individual and they're better than us or whatever. They're not. So I'm just going to say that clearly. And, you know, so I want you to all feel like you'd be empowered to do that. Flora, you have your hand
Yeah,
up.
I have a question. What do you do now?
What do I do?
Yeah.
I am the Community Engagement and Training Director at Hawaii Children's Action Network.
Because I'm signed up for that, and I think somebody sent me email for join the Epic you guys, but I didn't show up. It was 5:30, I think, and then for the event, and then all this time I always miss the event. So when you guys gonna get another one event, another one for Zoom, and another one is I joined the website of the all different like event, like first one I joined Advocacy Policy 101, and I learned about this thing like legislative, how to write your story, how approach your legislatures, how to say thank you, how to approach, and how to speak. Your voice need to be heard. And then that's yesterday. Somebody sent me email for event Advocacy Policy 101, but was canceled yesterday. So I was looking forward to see you do that one. It's about a medical.
Oh yeah, I mean, we send out a lot of things. So Hawaii Children's Action Network does, you know, we're involved in many different coalitions. Patrick knows us through the Oral Health Coalition, and like I said, I do Working Families Coalition. We have a Hawaii Early Childhood Educators, you know, coalition. We work on child abuse. Anyway, so which just means we tend to send out a lot of stuff from our partner organizations doing advocacy trainings. We do this training. I mean, the one you all are participating in today is an annual one we do every year with multiple partners that come together to help train advocates and be more effective in this work. I, in my day job, do this advocacy training just on a fair, like 3 or 4 times a year, just through HCAN and different things. But we also have many partners that do their own advocacy trainings, and we share that information. I mean, our goal ultimately is the more the merrier, the more voices we can have participating in this process, the better. And really what we're trying to get at is give you skills and tips about how to just be more effective at it. And I know personally, like I said, my experience of 25 years is, you know, the most effective thing we can do is the story we tell directly to our legislators. And that means then emailing, but even more importantly, if we can, it's going to meet them face to face, and it's picking up the phone. And so that is the most effective, persuasive thing we can do. And, you know, I kind of feel like any other work beyond that is just not, I mean, it's nice and it can be fun, but it's not the most effective thing we could be doing. So I often think about it because I come out of campaign work, we call it direct voter contact. And so if I'm not directly talking to that voter, it's, you know, forget it. So that's kind of, but so the same thing with around policy. If we're not directly talking to our legislators and the people making the decisions around the policies that affect our lives, it's just not, you know, not as an effective thing we can be doing. So yeah, Kelly.
Hi, you know, I can speak, I'm just so like, I'm interested in all of this, Laura. So thank you for this training and for giving us the opportunity with our coalition to share. I was gonna say, how do you, like, I think our group, like, and probably with you too and your coworkers, you have to work together, be cohesive. You know, I know it's like, you know, I can't do it on my own, which I don't want to just do it on my own, but there's a lot I can do, like be an example. And you were saying to share the information that I learned from you, from this training.
Yeah.
So yes, I just wanted to thank you for that. And my point was, how do you, and you know, I think we do awesome, like you know, but how do you work together as a group? Is there any kind of advice you have? Like, I'm trying to think, like, you know, as a group, but you guys must, like, this is a group, I guess. This is a group right here.
I think the, well, and Chris, both Christy and Jalen, like we all, you know, we all sit on coalition, so we do a lot of group work. I mean, part of it is it's the regular gathering together of and sharing that information. So I know the Working Families Coalition, we meet on a regular basis that allows us to kind of update each other. We have, and it's good communication amongst your partners. So it's, you know, we, you know, in between those meetings, we have a Google list that, like, if people want to share information as stuff is happening in between meetings. And it's just staying in touch, and it is that sharing. But I think it's setting up really regular intervals to do that. And when we get into session, we'll do it more frequently. So it might become then twice a month or once a week, depending on kind of what's actually happening, so that information can get shared, because everybody, right, especially on coalition work and different partners, like they just have access to different people and different information. And so they'll have different meetings at different times, and then how did those meetings go and what kind of happened. So that I think is really important. Courtney was asking a question about joint team testimonies. The challenge with the joint team testimony is that, especially if you're submitting it via the website, it'll only submit it as the person. So, but you can say, I often, it will say that you can submit it on behalf of a person or an organization. So I oftentimes, and I flip depending on what's kind of going on. I will I'm submitting this on behalf of Hawaii Children's Action Network, or I'm submitting it on behalf of myself. And then if you're pre-writing, we were just actually having this conversation at a coalition meeting I was at about, right, you can, if you've written that testimony ahead of time and you're going to submit it as a file as opposed to putting it in, you can, it's actually okay at the bottom to say these 10 people have signed this piece of legislation. Now, the only challenge I have with that is generally, well, no, not a challenge. I would say in addition to that, each of those individual people should make sure they're contacting their individual legislator, right? Because generally testimony is going to a committee. But you also want to make sure your individual legislator knows that you have submitted testimony, and especially if they sit on that committee, then you want them to hear directly from you. So it becomes kind of a two-step process, if that makes sense. But that's generally what I'll kind of do that piece as well. But hope that answered that question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. Another one. You think wait, this one I went send Josh Green email, no, Facebook Messenger, and then I asked him when is the next legislature opening, and he never sent me message back. But so I want to call the government office and ask them if they're going to do the state capital legislature opening probably soon. I want to know if next month will be open or going to be on Zoom. Another one is I have a BFF, my legislative and senator, and then my one is Matt Presti, and he's my area, and I like Jared K. Olo K.
Let me answer, Flora. I'm gonna
for
let me
advocacy meeting. Clubhouse advocacy.
Let me answer your first
coalition.
question. They still have not decided if they are doing an opening day thing. They normally do. And what Flora is referring to, the rest of you haven't. They didn't do it last year, obviously, because the building was closed. But usually on that opening day, there's like everybody goes. It's kind of a big party. Each of the legislators kind of has food in their room, and it's just kind of a celebratory opening of session thing. The last we have heard, they haven't quite decided what they're going to do for opening day legislation this year. So, but that would be if you go to the legislative website, right? That would be something that would be posted on that front page, and that's where you can kind of keep track of that. As to Flora, the messaging people on their social media, one, elected officials, it varies. Some of them, it's their staff who are actually maintaining that, but also be aware that like if you're asking them a question, Josh is actually a little better than most, so that could just be, you know, he's been a little busy as a ER doctor and during COVID times, and our lieutenant governor, he's kind of a little swamped at the moment. But if you're trying to ask official kind of business questions about the legislature, probably best, I mean, that actually would have been a question I would have called PAR about, and not necessarily the lieutenant governor, but that's just me. I'm gonna, somebody had a question, Courtney wanted to know back to the kind of the individual legislator and the submit testimony. No, not submitting twice. What you wanna do is you wanna submit testimony in the submit testimony place to that committee. I would say you then wanna go out and email directly your legislator's office, right? There's a separate, like, email them directly. So that's not in the submit testimony place, that's in a go email. Does that, I hope that answered that question for Courtney. Any other, it's 10:42, any other questions?
Yes, Laura, you should come to Clubhouse Advocacy Coalition Wednesday meeting to talk to all the members, Clubhouse members.
Well, I'll talk to Christy about that. We'll coordinate. But thank you for the invitation. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Christy, I invite her. She should come.
Okay. if she has the time, then maybe she can.
Any other questions for me?
This is Joy. I have a really quick question. I'm wondering, I'm about to do a citizen engagement training for a lobby group, and it's outside of Hawaii, so it's federal. And I personally love the public access room that we have here. It's amazing. I can't believe we have it. And I'm just wondering, do you know if other states have something similar that I could recommend they look up? I'm just wondering if that's a unique to Hawaii situation.
It is
Thank
not.
you.
It is not most state legislators. So I have worked in Minnesota, Washington State, Louisiana, Wisconsin, Ohio, and Michigan. And with the exception of Ohio, because that was just electoral work. Most state legislators have some public access room. It might look a little different, or they might call it something else, but most of them all have a public access room and a legislative reference bureau, because those are generally the people, the legislative reference bureau in particular. I know in Minnesota, those are actually the people that write the bills. So they all have them.
What are some other names I could suggest to them to look up?
I mean, I think they're all, I wouldn't know. I've always known them as a public, in the states I've worked in, they've all been called public access rooms. So, but I'd have to go look. I don't really, yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. I mean, this is an interesting thing. I mean, one of the kind of things I love about working in different states is every state legislator works a little differently, and some are way better than others. So this is, but I do have to say the Minnesota and everybody's websites are some are really good and some are really bad. Hawaii's is one of the better ones. I regret to say, as someone who spent a lot of time in Minnesota, their website used to be great and now it's not so great, and I actually find it really hard to like navigate. So this one is actually pretty user friendly, so it's kind of nice. Anyway, any other last questions? Because we're getting
okay. If you don't mind.
Well, Kelly, can you? I just want to see if anybody else has.
Oh yes, definitely.
Anybody else? We're getting down to it. I just want to make sure. All right, Kelly, go for it.
Thank you. Okay, and I'm going to look up that mo'olelo. The mo'olelo about talking story. Listen, it's awesome. So I wanted to ask, I think out of the box sometimes with my questions. So I wanted to ask how, maybe like you personally, or how you can give advice, how do you keep track of everything that you're working on to be organized in time management? And what inspires and motivates you? What inspires and motivates you to do what you do? And yes.
Yeah. Well, tracking, it depends on what it is, and all of us have different kind of ways we keep track. But I'm kind of old school, quite frankly. I am if I don't write it down, it doesn't happen. And if it's not on my calendar, it probably will get forgotten. And I, quite frankly, I'm an old, like a lot of my stuff, especially when it comes to like tracking bills and those kinds of things, I'm still one of those, the easiest thing to me is a simple spreadsheet. Like I can't even, and I laugh because, one of my coworkers is, a young 20-something young man who's awesome. And he always is cracking me up because he's the one that's like the newfangled, computer app that he always wants to use. And I'm like, I can't do it. So but he's also almost 30 years younger than I am. So it's kind of fun, but that's for me, like how I do it. Everybody's different. And it is worth kind of figuring out your own system and taking the time to do that, because then it just becomes easier. Especially I get it all set up pre-session around bills and tracking. Like I said, I'll go in and set up that tracker page. I have found that actually very useful because I know where it is and I can just go click on stuff really quick. And so but other people like more information, and it's easier for them. So just do that. The thing that inspires and motivates me the most is, it really is the engagement piece. Bye, Patrick. Thank you for being here. Like I said, I come out of, I will end this with sharing my own story that will speak to this. So I often tell the story of a young 12-year-old girl who divorced parents, pretty ugly family divorce. And when her parents were getting divorced and they were going through the legal process of where the kids were going to go, they, did not ask the children, all of whom this 12-year-old was actually the youngest of, so all teenagers by this point. And this was back in the day when, of course, it was, still we're going to leave our kids with moms. It's always better to leave them with their moms. Unfortunately, in this situation, the mom was the abuser. And so those kids got left with the abusive parent. I was that child. at 12. And I remember when that happened, that my first thought, interestingly, wasn't kind of being mad at my mom or my dad or whatever. It really was understanding that the system was broken, that this should not happen. That you were, if they had just asked those children who were old enough to be asked at that point where they wanted to be, they would have, made a different decision. But we weren't asked. And I just remember very clearly understanding that like that was not. And so as a young 12-year-old, again, don't know where that came from, I'm like, I'm going to go fix the system. I'm going to go, children should not, this should never happen to another child again. And so I'm going to become an attorney, and I'm going to go fight for kids to so this never happens. Now, as I got older into my, going into college and growing up and in and out of college and learning then about kind of different things, I come to understand that it is not lawyers who make laws or change laws. It is legislators who do that. And so it became very clear that if I wanted to change the system, it wasn't about becoming an attorney. It was about having better elected officials in the positions of power that make those decisions. So, and that's then what led me into doing campaign work. Like I said, most of my work came out of trying to elect better people into office. I couple that with, I really honestly, passionately believe that we need everyone in our communities, every voice at the table, helping make those decisions. And if we don't hear from the majorities of our communities, we really don't know what our communities need. And so that has translated for me, it was about engaging people to go out and vote. If the majority of our people aren't voting, to me, that's not a real clear indication of who people want in that office. If I don't have a majority of people engaged in the process, in wherever that may be along the way, it just is, I kind of have an idea, but there's still I can't, there's still some wiggle room. So for me, it really comes out of that. Our communities are only as good as those who are participating in it, engaged in it. And our elected officials are only as good as, we hold them accountable, and they're the people that we really want there. And so it all kind of plays together. So those are the things that I am passionate about still today, as I see, it started out like a 12-year-old girl, for some weird reason, went straight to the system's broken, don't know why, to that translating over many years of then just lived life and my own experiences, my sister's experiences, my nieces, understanding the struggles of working families, and really understanding that as a system, government system, community system, so many things are actually broken, but we don't fix those until we have the majority of people engaged in the process. And so that's what kind of gets me going every day and gets me up and gets me excited. And that's why I'm here. And actually, Christy and I are putting together an actual organizing training to do the specifics around how do you actually organize. And will be happening later in January. So because that is, how we build our majorities and build our communities. So thank you, Eric. And I want to say thank you to everyone for being here today. Really appreciate that you took a couple of hours on a Saturday morning to come and learn. And I hope you got out of it and some skill sets. I'm gonna, you'll get a kind of follow-up email. Oh, we also want, thank you, Christy. Christy just posted in the chat box, there's an evaluation form that we would really appreciate if you would fill out. So give us some feedback on how we did today. Like I said, we do these every year. Some of us do them kind of regularly all year round. So it just helps us how we can be better at this work, all those kinds of things. So please take some time to fill that out. We greatly appreciate it. There will be a follow-up. I'm actually, if anybody wants to get a hold of me, has any other questions, I'm going to put my email in the chat box, my work email, if I can type properly. But feel free to reach out to me and ask questions. And we also said we recorded this and we will be putting it up on the website if people want to refer back to that. So you can share that as well with people after the fact. So it is 10:53, and unless anybody else has any other questions, I'm going to give you 7 minutes back of your day. So
yeah, I have another question. If you know, if the that senator or representative could do the running for senator, representative, or governor, please people be brave and hold sign to them, or give out the pamphlet to the neighborhood to their housing so they can vote. That's
More
what I did.
More importantly, talk to your neighbors and other people in your community and have those conversations. That is the most persuasive way to hold any elected official accountable, or if you, whatever. So thank you, Flora. Really appreciate it. Appreciate everyone being here. Thank you, Clubhouse members. Got a fantastic job for sharing your stories, asking a lot of awesome questions. Thank you, Christy, for being here. Jalen, thank you for getting us set up this morning. And that we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to let y'all go. Be well. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Happy holidays.
Right, thank you.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you, Laura,
Happy holidays.
Christy,
Thank you.
Robert, Linda. Thank you.
Bye, Kelly.
Bye.
Bye, Linda.